Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my show, which obviously, as you guys can see, I've officially have made some changes with the show and literally just within a week or so. For starters, our show is actually no longer going to be called Paranormal and Historic Locations and Legends. And trust me, as much as I love the title, this was a new title that I just couldn't resist because to make a long story short, when I was co-hosting the 13th Dimension on Friday with Jeremy last Friday with Jeremy York, we had Terry and Jess from Skeleton Key that was on, and let's just see here quick. I just want to give some quick shout outs. What's going on, Sam? Good to see you. Hey, Chantel. Good to see you here. Good to see you here too. And all of a sudden, they just had this idea of wanting to call my show the Nick Files. And originally, it was quite a funny scenario, but I actually really more or less took it as a joke. But as time went on, uh, Terry just, they suggested having that funny name of that they came up with be the official title of the show. And it, as you can see right behind the screen, it eventually did become what it is now, which is called the Nick Files. And finally, of course, as you guys see, I'm starting a little bit earlier compared to when I usually start because, you know, the fact is that one of the networks I broadcast my show on, there's actually a show right after me, and you guys have always seen, how I sometimes have to rush through my slideshows. So we just decided that I was going to start about a half hour early, so that way, if I do get over an hour mark, I would have a little bit more time, so I don't have to rush through the entire slideshow. So, but anyways, for tonight, let's just see who else is reaching out just before I begin. I mean, before I tell you guys what we have in store for tonight. What's going on, Joanne? Hello, Shannon. Good to see you. So get back to. I'll be back out to play Sam to share easy. Yes, Jess, it definitely is. It really does. I have to agree with you on that. What's going on, Eddie? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Excuse me. You guys will also have to excuse me. I got my allergies are kind of getting the best of me today, so I'm going to try my best with reading. But anyways, for tonight's show, we're going to be talking about I think a place we're all very familiar with. We'll be talking about the Stanley Hotel. We're going to be focusing on the history of it, of course, the ghost stories. And the unusual thing is that there might be a possibility. Well, there might be a possibility we may have to split this into two parts once again because I did recently uncover some other information about the not necessarily the Stanley Hotel itself, but more on, of course, the movie that we're all familiar that was shot there, The Shining. Back in the well over 40 years ago, back in the early 1980s. So I recently got some of this new information about it. Yes, just last night. Unfortunately, I didn't really have enough time to really put it into the slideshow. But the important part is like I said, I'm probably going to split this into two parts. So if not today, most likely I'll have that information for next week. So let me just get to the sharing quick. Let me just share the screen so we can get started. Good to see you, Natalie. And let me go through all this fun ruckus again, like I always have to deal with. So bear with me for just a moment. Oh wait a sec. Hang on. I just I think I just did the wrong thing. Let's try that. Share it to the wrong bot window. Let's try that again. All right. Now, and by the way, although the show is now called the Nick Files, the slideshows themselves, they're obviously still going to have they're still gonna retain the original name, Paranormal and Historic Locations and Legends. So because obviously with all the slideshows I do have, there just wasn't enough time to really rename all of them. So they're still gonna stick to the original name, but regardless, it's still the Nick Files. Let me just check the screen very quickly. Let me just see who's on my personal chat. Hey Joey, good to see you. Hey Cherokee, good to see you as well. Let's see. Oh, Cherokee, that is awesome. If you guys ever happen to come out to Chicago, give me a shout out because I'd love to see you guys come out. Yeah, Cherokee's all the way from Australia, so yeah, she's coming out to the United States next year. That's awesome. But I will guarantee you, Cherokee, the Stanley Hotel will not be a disappointment. I've actually been to the Stanley. Ironically enough, I've actually been to the Stanley Hotel myself. That was well over 15 years ago. Although the sad part was we weren't able to stay the night and investigate because from what I've heard from that place, I think you guys all know this already. That place is expensive as hell. I mean, the prices are just insane. But we were fortunate enough, however, to actually, walk around some of the lobby, like the lobby or in some of the other perimeters of the hotel. But regardless, it was still definitely cool to check out. As much as I really wanted to stay the night, definitely did not have the money for it though. I was only 13 years old at the time. But let's see. Oh, Cherokee's saying you're staying down the road. Okay. Oh, you're not gonna be too far from that then. All right. That's good either way. All right. So, anyways, before we get into more about our recent experiences, let's go back to the very beginning of when the Stanley Hotel was before it was even built. The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, is not only famous for its old world charm and excellent service, but it is also known for its active paranormal phenomena and spirit folklore. The 120-year-old hotel, located about 5 miles from the entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park, offers panoramic views of Lake Estes and the Rocky Mountains, and especially Long's Peak. Designed and funded by Freeland Oscar Stanley, the Stanley Hotel opened in 1909 in Estes Park. The first class resort helped make Estes Park into a tourist destination, especially after the establishment of Rocky Mountain National Park in 1915. Oh, I forgot to add an effect on these. Estes Valley was once a wild, lonely parkland known to wandering tribes of Ute and Arapaho. Arapaho. I can't pronounce some of these words. When the Earl of Dunraven visited in 1872, he coveted the sportsman paradise of rushing streams and peaceful meadows teeming with fish and game. He sought to keep the valley to himself as a private hunting preserve, but as more and more American settlers were drawn by its natural beauty, he realized that this dream could never be a reality. Born in Kingfield, Maine in 1849, the steam powered car inventor, entrepreneur, hotelier, and architect Freeland Oscar Stanley first saw the Estes Valley in 1903 when he was 54 years old. He had recently been diagnosed with a life threatening resurgence of tuberculosis, which doctors said would claim him within months. At the time, the most highly recommended treatment was fresh, dry air with lots of sunlight and a healthy diet. Like many lungers of the day, Stanley decided he needed to retreat into the dry air of the Rocky Mountains. A wealthy man, best known for his fortune in the manufacture of the dry plate photographic process, but is best remembered as the co-founder, along with his twin brother Francis Edgar Stanley, the Stanley Motor Carriage Company, which built steam-powered automobiles until 1920. He developed with his twin brothers. He developed with his twin brother. Stanley immediately set out for the dry air of Colorado and soon drove one of his Stanley steamer cars from Leon's to Estes Park. This was the first automobile to be driven into the Estes Valley. He and his wife Flora arrived in Denver in March of that year, and in June they moved to Estes Park by the recommendation of Stanley's doctor, Dr. Sherman Grant Bonnery, for the rest of the summer. Over his time in Estes Park, Stanley's health improved dramatically, the magic of the mountain air and climate of the valley proving to be more than just superstition. Impressed by the beauty of the valley and grateful for his recovery, he decided to return every year, and in 1904 decided to build a Georgian revival house in the emerging town of Estes Park, where he would spend summers for the rest of his life. By 1907, Stanley had recovered completely. However, as a man of high standards, not content with the rustic accommodations, lazy pastimes, and relaxed social scene of their new summer home, Stanley resolved to turn the valley of Estes Park into a resort town, which would cater for the upper class socialites, as well as his wealthy social friends from Massachusetts. Along with along with Flora, the Stanley had started to build a beautiful grand hotel in Estes Park based on classic East Coast resorts such as the Breakers and Royal Poinciana Hotel in Florida, the Mountain View House and Mount Washington Hotel in New Hampshire, and the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island in Michigan. Estes Park, I don't know where all these flies. Sorry, guys, just had these flies just show up. That was weird. Estes Park was not on a railroad line, however, so good roads would be important. Stanley led efforts to improve North Street Vrain and South Street Vrain roads, making it possible for tourists to drive through Estes Park on a loop that started at Eden and Leon's. I just want to give a quick shout out for some of the comments because I am starting to see a few. Because, like as I always say before, guys, whenever I do these slideshows, I'm not ignoring comments or anything. It's just that I can't see them when I'm doing these slideshows. So that's why I have my phone right here, so I could, while I can't share the comments, I can at least see them. What's going on, Robin? Good to see you. Hey, Brandon, it's been a while. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Let me just check here on the. Let's check on the Things Network chat. Okay. Well, for some reason, as usual, it doesn't always show all the comments. So I do apologize if I don't reach out to anybody, if I don't say hello to any of you guys. Okay. In October of that year, construction began of the Hotel Stanley, a 48-room grand hotel that catered to the class of moderately wealthy urbanites and members who compose the Stanley social circle back east, as well as consumptives seeking the healthful climate. The hotel was on a rocky hillside, facing south toward Long's Peak. Stanley probably designed much of the hotel himself, though he did employ an architect. Like his Estes Park house, which he had planned, it was to be an elegant Georgian revival structure which experienced a revival in the early 20th century. The four-story building's symmetrical style and strong horizontal lines stood in stark contrast to both the rugged natural backdrop and the prevailing tendency toward rustic designs and mountain hotels of the time. Wood and rock were obtained from the nearby mountains. While the hotel was under construction, Stanley invested heavily in the town's infrastructure. In the course of just a few years, he played an instrumental role in establishing the town's first bank, its water company, and its hydroelectric plants. Later, he helped start the town's sewer system and its public golf course. All of these endeavors would contribute indirectly to the success of Stanley's hotel, and some, such as the Fall River hydroelectric plants, were originally built for the hotel before being expanded to serve the town as well. Stanley conceived of the hotel as a summer resort, so the main building was planned without heat and was originally open from June to September. The rest of the hotel complex, a casino building for entertainment and dancing, not gambling, a carriage house for the Hotel Stanley steamers, and several service buildings, was situated across the roughly 150-acre property. The buildings were all painted a mustard yellow color reminiscent of East Coast resorts. By the time it was finished, the entire project cost Stanley at least $200,000, although possibly as much as $500,000, which, at that time, it was still relatively huge. The land was purchased by the representatives of the 4th Earl of Dunraven in 1908. The original owner and family, and Mount Earl, the Anglo-Irish peer, who had originally acquired it by stretching the provisions of the Homestead Act of 1862 and preemption rights. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, my allergies are really, they're really up in the air today. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so anyways, between 1872 and 1884, Lord Dunraven claimed 15,000 acres of the Estes Valley in an unsuccessful attempt to create a private hunting preserve, making him one of the largest foreign holders of American land. Unpopular and intensely disliked by the local ranchers and farmers, Dunraven left the area in 1884, relegating the ranch to the management of an overseer. Dunraven's presence in Colorado was parodied in Charles King's novel Dunraven Ranch, published in 1892, and James A. Missioner's Centennial, published in 1974. His reputation, damn it, sorry guys, I need to find out where these flies are coming from. Get out of here. His reputation was such that when Stanley suggested the Dunraven as a name for his new hotel, 180 people signed a buckskin petition requesting that he name the hotel after himself instead. Yeah, Robin, it's getting pretty bad for you too. Now the Stanley Hotel was completed and opened on June 22nd, 1909. It featured 88 guest rooms, a music room where Flora played piano, a smoking lounge, and a billiard room for Stanley and his male guests, and an electric kitchen designed by Stanley and powered by his Fall River hydroelectric plant. Electric lights, telephones, running water, in-suite bathrooms, a staff of uniformed servants, and a fleet of automobiles were at their disposal. Naturally, Stanley had also done much to develop the burgeoning town. The floor plan of the hotel was laid out to accommodate the various activities popular with the American upper class at the turn of the 20th century, and the spaces are decorated accordingly. The style of the hotel contrasts sharply with the rustic style used for the other hotels in Estes Park. Well, I already said something like that before. Before and after the Stanley's construction. However, it was. Oh, okay. I thought it was repeating some of the same information. However, it was not an uncommon choice for a hotel of the Stanley size and quality in the time period. In general, the colonial revival symbolized the historical roots of modern American cultural values and the positive progress of American civilization. By this token, the Stanley Hotel was an expression of the modest gentility of the builder and his clientele. I can't even say that word. An advertisement for the modern comforts contained within it, and a beacon for the future of Estes Park as a respectable resort town. All three of these connotations were heightened in contrast with the ruggedness of the Rocky Mountains and the rusticity of the other hotels in the area. The music room, for instance, with its cream-colored walls, originally green and white, picture windows and fine classical plasterwork, was designed for letter writing during the day and chamber music at night, cultured pursuits perceived as feminine. On the other hand, the smoking lounge, today the The Pinean Room, an adjoining billiard room with their dark stained wood elements and granite arched fireplace were designated for enjoyment by male guests. Stanley himself, having been raised in a conservative household and having recovered from a serious lung disease, did not smoke cigars or drink alcohol. But these were essential after dinner activities for most men at the time. Billiards, however, was among Stanley's most cherished pastimes. Although Freenan and Flora never had children, they remained close to their nieces and nephews and were notoriously kind to the children of Estes Park and those who visited the Stanley Hotel. Freeland was not without a sense of humor, posing for photographs dressed as your Western man in a 10-gallon hat and woolly chaps, or as the King of Estes Park, with a tin canister on his head for a crown placed there by the local children, which I'm actually surprised. I wasn't able to find any of those photographs, so I'm just going to assume those photos are just not available again online. I'm sure, at Cherokee, if you're still watching, that's probably something you may be able to find when you guys make your visit to the hotel. And Robin, yes, it is. We'll get to that. We're going to get to that in a little while, because right now we're just going right to the beginning of the hotel's construction. The first guests were members of the Colorado Pharmacal Association, who pulled up in stylish Stanley-designed steam cars, much to the Stanleys' astonishment, and convened at the hotel for their 20th annual meeting. And that's actually, if I'm correct, that actually I think is the photograph when the first guests ever arrived at the Stanley Hotel, the Colorado Pharmacal Association. With no central heating or ventilation system, the structure was designed to facilitate natural airflow. The Palladian window at the top of the grand stairs could be opened to induce a cross breeze through the lobby. French doors and all the public spaces open onto verandas, and two curving staircases connecting the guest corridors prevent stagnant air in the upper floors. Cherokee. Yeah, if you could send those photos to me, Cherokee, I'd really appreciate it. The more photos I'm able to find of this place, the better I could use for, these historical segments, especially for, in this case, the Stanley Hotel. So yeah, please send them to me if you can. Although the main hotel is now heated in the winter, guests still depend on natural ventilation for cooling in the summer. The concert hall east of the hotel was built by Stanley that same year, with the assistance of Lord Cornwallis Rogers, the same architect who designed his summer cottage. According to popular legend, it was built by Freeland as a gift for Flora. The interior is decorated in the same manner as the music room in the main hotel, and vaguely resembles that of the Boston Symphony Hall with which the Stanleys would have been familiar. The stage features a trap door used for theatrical entrances and exits. The lower level once housed a 2-lane bowling alley, which was removed during the ownership of Maxwell Abel. It possibly resembled the bowling alley at the Stanley's Hunwell Club in Newton, pictures of which are archived in the Newton Free Library. The hall underwent extensive repair and renovation in the 2000s. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find an actual photograph when it was brand new. So, showing this photograph in particular is what I'm going to be showing with the rest of the grounds of the hotel. It's all taken in modern times. I just couldn't find any of the original photographs for it, but like I said, Cherokee is planning on heading out there next year. So hopefully she'll send me those pictures soon, because I definitely would like to still add the historical accuracy to them. To bring guests from the nearest train spot, depot, in the foothills of Leon's, Stanley's car company produced a fleet of specially designed steam-powered vehicles called mountain wagons that seated multiple passengers to and from the hotel. Stanley operated the hotel on the side almost as a pastime, remarking once that he spent more money than he had made each summer, and that running the hotel was just enjoyable for him, regardless of profits. The Stanley Hotel has hosted many famous guests, including the unsinkable Molly Brown, John Philip Sousa, Theodore Roosevelt, the Emperor and Empress of Japan, and a variety of Hollywood personalities. After the success of the hotel's first season, construction began on the Manor House, or the Stanley Manor, in 1910, between the main building and concert hall. Essentially a scaled down version of the main building, the Manor House was probably conceived as part of the original plan. It was ready by the next summer. Unlike the main building, its 33 rooms were fully heated from completion, which may indicate that Stanley planned to use that as a winter resort when the main building was closed for the season, allowing the hotel to operate year round. A bowling alley, concert hall was also added to the Stanley Manor. So what I'm going to assume is that the hall that I was showing you before, I guess they said that at one point, one part of the building had a bowling alley of its own, but it sounds like this was kind of more or less the replacement building for the bowling alley. Other contributing buildings were eventually built on the large acreage. However, unlike many other Colorado mountain towns, now famous for their Estes Park never attracted off-season visitors in Stanley's day, and the manor remained empty for much of the year. Upon opening, the hotel was alleged to be one of the few in the world powered entirely by electricity. However, lack of available power induced the installation of auxiliary gas lighting system in June 1911. On June 25th, the day after the pipes had been filled, and during a large storm, a massive explosion occurred that injured a housekeeper and several waiters and damaged the structure, though contemporary newspaper articles differ on certain details. A brief article telegraphed by the York Dispatch of York, Pennsylvania, and circulated by the Associated Press the following day said, "The Stanley Hotel, built at a cost of $500,000, was partially wrecked last night by an explosion of gas. 8 persons were injured, 1 seriously. None of the guests were injured. Elizabeth Wilson of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a hotel employee, was hurled from the second to the first floor, and both ankles were broken. The other 7 are Negro waiters." When the Lancaster paper reprinted the story, the editor noted that Elizabeth Wilson's name did not appear in local directories, and she could not be identified as a Lancastrian. Similar accounts in local Colorado papers give the maid's name as Elizabeth Lambert and convey various dramatic details that are not confirmed by other articles. The most comprehensive and detailed article on the incident appeared on June 29th in the Fort Collins Express and seems to be the most accurate, positively refuting that the maid had been hurled from the second to the first floor, is what I already read. And again, ironically enough, despite this explosion that occurred at the hotel, once again, for some reason whatsoever, I was unable to find any photos of the hotel itself when it was severely damaged by this explosion. So that was kind of bizarre, because you would have expected at least to find a photo or two of this disaster that occurred at the hotel. Let's see. Sorry, my phone just died. Okay. That the explosion of the gas in the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park Sunday night will not interfere with the reception and entertainment of guests was announced by the management Monday night. The dining room of the Stanley Hotel will be used during the time the big building is undergoing repairs, and other accommodations will be adequate because of the fact that the damage was confined chiefly to the west end of the building. Hang on one second, guys, because I got to keep up with the time and my phone just died. So let me just plug this in quickly. Okay. The management estimated the damage last night at probably $10,000. It was announced that the work of repairing the building will be taken up once and pushed to completion as rapidly as possible. The explosion was caused by an accumulation of acetylene gas from a leaky pipe. This gas accumulated in the space between the ceiling of the dining room and the floor of the second story. A chambermaid who was in a room directly above the dining room was in the act of lighting the gas when the match which she held in her hand ignited the escaping gas. The explosion which followed tore a huge hole in the floor, precipitating great quantities of plaster, timbers, and other debris into the dining room. The chambermaid, Lizzie Leitenberger, see again, it goes to another. I think this is the actual article that I was able to find on this. Had both ankles broken. Had both ankles broken. It is thought from the concussion of the explosion and was thrown into a hole in the floor. She was not, however, thrown through into the dining room, being caught by the timbers and held until rescue. She was taken to a hospital in Longmont. She had been in the employ of the hotel ever since it was built and came here from Philadelphia. 2 waiters also sustained slight injuries, one suffering a dislocated hip and the other being struck across the face by a flying plank, not prank. Neither of these, however, is in serious condition. Alfred Lamborn, manager of the hotel, his wife and daughter and several guests were in the dining room at the time of the explosion, but all miraculously escaped injury. The dining room was badly wrecked, and the west end of the building was badly strained out of line from the force of the explosion. At least 10 large plate glass windows on the ground floor were shattered, as well as several doors, which were blown from their hinges. The hotel is ordinarily lighted by electricity from a private plant in the neighborhood, but the generator in this plant showed signs early Sunday afternoon of giving trouble Sunday night. So the preparations were made to put the auxiliary acetylene lighting system into working order. The generating plant for the system is located in Stanley Manor, and the big building had just been piped for acetylene last winter. The pipes never having been filled with gas until Sunday. Upon reading this again, I think this is the actual newspaper. Like I said, I think this is the actual newspaper article of what was said. Although, again, I'm surprised I wasn't able to find the actual newspaper itself through the historical or newspaper websites. So it's kind of weird that I wasn't able to find it. But this was probably as close as I was going to be able to get to showing the real thing, if you will, in regards to the fire that occurred at this place. Just before we continue, let's see how much time I got right now. What do we got? Okay, so we're... Oh, wow, we're already past a half hour. The Stanley's first golden age lasted through the 1910s, when Rocky Mountain National Park was established and Estes Park tourism boomed. During these years, fleets of Stanley Steamer automobiles whisked guests up to the hotel from railroad depots in Loveland, Longmont, and Lyons. The Stanley was a model mountain resort of a kind that had previously existed in the Colorado Springs area, complete with a nine. See, I don't know what it is. It's kind of weird. It seems like it's repeating some of the stuff here that had previously existed primarily in the Colorado Springs area, complete with a 9-hole golf course, tennis courts, lawn and indoor bowling, croquet, and billiards. It had its own private water plant, laundry, and garage. On weekends, guests could enjoy a leisurely afternoon on the veranda. attend the Saturday evening dance at the casino, and catch the Sunday afternoon concert in the music room. Within a few years of opening, a hydraulic elevator was put in operation. In, in 1916, the east wing of the main building was extended in the rear, adding several guest rooms. Around this time, the alcove of the music room was added. Hey, thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. By 1917, it was an official municipality with waterworks, a power plant, and civic organizations that were all in some way thanks to Stanley. In 1921, a rear veranda was enclosed, forming a room that currently serves as a gift shop. Despite its high prices, $5 to $8 a night at a time when other Estes Park hotels charged only $1 or $2, the Stanley generally spent more than it made. The profits of the Stanley Motor Carriage Company covered the hotel's deficits until Stanley sold the company in the late 1910s. After that, the hotel received few renovations until 1926, when Stanley sold it to a group of Milwaukee investors who refurbished the interior with new paint, carpet, and drapes. The group soon faced mounting debts, however, and in 1929, Stanley managed to reclaim title to the hotel in a foreclosure sale. Stanley almost immediately resold the hotel to Roe Emery, who owned the Estes Park chalets, as well as the Rocky Mountain Motor Company. Emery's transportation company turned into a tidy profit, allowing him to upgrade the Stanley. In 1935, he redecorated the bedrooms, added new light fixtures, replaced the hydraulic elevator with an electric cable operated system, extended to the fourth floor, necessitating the addition of a secondary cupola to house the mechanical apparatus, and repainted the exterior from the original mustard yellow to the now classic white. Originally, a porte cochere extended from the central bay of the front porch, but this was removed when the south terrace was converted into a parking lot. Emery also indulged the hotel's founder, who continued to have lunch there, attend concerts, and sit in his favorite rocker on the veranda. Flora Stanley's eyesight. Now, unfortunately, Flora Stanley's eyesight had deteriorated to such a point that she was no longer comfortable in places she didn't know well. Although the Stanleys continued to travel between Newton and Estes Park, Freeland began to think of retirement from public life, selling his hotel. In 1939, while in Estes Park, Flora suffered a stroke and died soon thereafter at their Colorado home, Rockside, on July 25th at the age of 92, after 63 years of marriage. The next year, Stanley returned to Estes Park for the summer, but maintained an inconspicuous presence. Shortly after his return to Newton in 1940, Stanley died on October 2nd of heart failure at the age of 91. Both Freeland and Flora are buried at Riverside Cemetery in Kingfield, Maine. Excuse me. Sorry, I thought I was about to sneeze there for a second. Oh God. Sorry. I hate when the allergies really take over. I wish they still charge $8 a night. Yeah, I know, right? Right, Cherokee? Wouldn't we all wish that? Oh boy, if only there was a way we could go back in time just to pay that kind of price, that would be awesome. Okay. In 1946, Emery sold the Stanley to Abel Management Company, later Abel Hotel Company. In the early 1950s, the new owners made several changes in an attempt to adapt the Grand Resort to the more informal style of post-war tourism. a swimming pool was installed in the front lawn, and the carriage house, which was originally built in 1905 prior to the main hotel, was converted from a garage to a motel. The Carriage House Motel, however, did not last long. The Carriage House Motel did not last long, however, and closed in the 70s. For much of the late 20th century, the building was boarded up. For much of the late 20th century, the building was boarded up and used for storage. In 2019, it underwent reservations in which the building will now serve the new purpose as a restaurant, post brewery upstairs, and a performance venue downstairs. Now, before I continue on with this, I think let me give you guys a reminder of what this building is, because I'm sure some of you guys may know what it is, others may not, a few may not. If you guys remember several years ago, and normally I don't really bring them up, but this was back on one of the original seasons of the show, in my opinion, when I thought they were actually good. If you guys remember when Ghost Adventures did an episode on the Stanley Hotel, and they were checking out one of these buildings that they said usually was not open to the public, and there was that one part where Zach says, "Welcome to the dark side of the Stanley." And they went into that building. That is the building right there. And that, again, I wasn't able to find an old photo of it, but I was able to find this particular photo, which I thought was interesting because if you remember in the Ghost Adventures episode, as it says here, it was all boarded up. You couldn't get inside it. Now you guys can see that, work has finally been started up on that place. And they're basically doing everything they possibly can to restore it, considering that the other buildings within the property of the Stanley Hotel are all in operation. So it's really cool that they're finally opening this place up. Well, back up, I should say, because it hasn't been open in almost 50 years. In 1966, Abel sold the Stanley. For the next 2 decades, the hotel passed through several sets of owners. The hotel had never made much, if any, profit, and owners without an independent fortune or another cash-generating business soon found that operating the Stanley made little financial sense. Right here. This I should have actually put this on an earlier slide. This was a photo I think that was taken back. Well, I don't think it's an actual photo. I think this was more of a drawing that was created, I think, sometime in the late 1910s or sometime probably in the 1920s. And that is, as far as we know, the only known, not necessarily photograph, but only known image of what the Stanley Hotel looked like when it had that mustard yellow color. I should have added that to one of the earlier slides, but we'll remember that after I get off here. But either way, that's quite a rare image to see. In the 1970s, the Stanley was experiencing a downward spiral. Its splendor had faded, and with other accommodations with more modern amenities like heat and AC were taking most of the business. In addition, the property changed hands every few years and gradually deteriorated as maintenance and upgrades were deferred. It also had a reputation of being haunted, which wasn't a choice selling point back then. The Stanley seemed doomed for the wrecking ball. Despite that, the Stanley was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1977. Now, this is something I think we all know. This is where things get really interesting for the hotel. However, in the fall of October 30th, 1974, just before Halloween, during their brief residency in Boulder, Colorado, horror writer Stephen King and his wife Tabitha spent one night at the Stanley Hotel. The visit is known entirely through interviews given by King, in which he presents differing narratives of the experience. At the time of his visit, King was writing a book with the working title Darkshine, set in an amusement park, but was not satisfied with the setting. According to George Beham's According to George Beam, Stephen King's companion, on the advertisement of locals who suggested a resort hotel located in Estes Park, an hour's drive away to the north, Stephen and Tabitha King found themselves checking in at the Stanley Hotel just as its other guests were checking out because the hotel was shutting down for the winter season. Only a skeleton crew remained, and they were the only paying guests. After checking into room 217, the presidential suite, and after Tabitha went to bed, King roamed the halls and went down to the hotel bar where drinks were served by a bartender named Grady. As he returned to his room, his imagination was fired up by the hotel's remote location, its grand size, and its eerie desolation. When King went into the bathroom and pulled back the pink curtain for the tub, which had clawed feet, he thought, what if somebody died here? At that moment, I knew I had a book. In addition, King got the idea for a story about a man who goes crazy at a remote hotel that is closed for the winter. That night, the author had a horrific nightmare in which he saw his 3-year-old son being chased down the hotel's long, empty corridors by a predatory possessed fire hose. He woke up drenched in sweat and stepped to the balcony to smoke a cigarette. By the time he stubbed it out, he worked out the bones of what would become his third novel and first bestseller, The Shining. In a 1977 interview by the Literary Guild, King recounted, while we were living in Boulder, we heard about this terrific old mountain resort hotel and decided to give it a try. But when we arrived, they were just getting ready to close for the season, and we found ourselves the only guests in the place, with all those long, empty corridors. King and his wife were served dinner in an empty dining room, accompanied by canned orchestral music. Except for our table, all the chairs were up on the tables, so the music is echoing down the hall. And I mean, it was like God had put me there to hear that, and see those things. And by the time I went to bed that night, I had the whole book in my mind. King's unfortunate nightmare turned out to be a sweet dream and breath of life for the historic landmark. The Shining was published in 1977 and became the third great success of King's career after Carrie and Salem's Lot. The primary setting is an isolated Colorado resort named the Overlook Hotel, which closes for the winter. In the front matter of the book, King tactfully states some of the most beautiful resort hotels in the world are located in Colorado, but the hotel in these pages is based on none of them. The Overlook and the people associated with it exist wholly in the author's imagination. After his book was published, there was a massive surge in paranormally motivated tourism to the Stanley Hotel due to the fact that it served as the inspiration for the fictional Overlook Hotel in The Shining. The surge in spectrally motivated tourism after the book still is going strong to this day, thanks in part to a 1980 film adaptation directly by Stanley Kubrick and starring Jack Nicholson. The famous 1980 Stanley Kubrick film based on the novel was not filmed at the Stanley, but a 1990s somehow that got mixed up. Wait, hang on, guys. Something went wrong here. Give me 1 second. Excuse me, guys. Jeez. What happened here? Let's try that again, because that was not, wait a minute. Okay, here we go. I have no idea what happened here, but let's fix that up. Okay, there we go. All right, now let me just go through this. Sorry, this was just like you can kind of say a slideshow era. I had to really fix up, so bear with me for just a moment. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, this is not. What happened here? Give me 1 second here, guys. There's some issue going on right now. What happened here? Okay, well, for some reason whatsoever, it's. Oh, wait. We got it. Okay. That kind of got me worried there for a second. All right, now let's try that. All right, now let's try this again. Oh, that freaked me out there for a sec, but it actually froze at one point. I'm like, then, oh, what's going on here? Okay, so, anyways, the famous 1980 Stanley Kubrick film based on the novel was not filmed at the Stanley, but a 1990s television miniseries made with King's input included scenes filmed on site. Under the Grand Heritage Hotel Group, the Stanley has embraced its association with The Shining and its reputation as a haunted hotel, both of which have helped revive the hotel's business. The room where King stayed, 217, is now the most requested room at the hotel. Cherokee, if you're still, I think you're still watching actually. If you want to get to that room, I would probably say, I know you guys are not coming out to the U.S. until next year, but I would try to get that room as soon as you could. It might even already be booked already for next year. So, a word of advice. The 1980 film version of The Shining even plays. Oh, get this too. The 1980 film version of The Shining even plays on a continuous loop nonstop on one designated channel of the hotel's televisions. Now, interestingly, in 2019, a sequel to the original Shining, Doctor Sleep, was released. The film is set several decades after the events of the original and combines elements of the 1977 novel as well. Which, by the way, for those who have seen Doctor Sleep, I did recently get word that they are actually trying to make a third. If you want to just focus on just the original film and Doctor Sleep, they actually are trying to make a third film of the series. So what I'm seeing is that looks like The Shining is going to eventually become a trilogy eventually. But they do have two ideas of what this new film is going to be. They're going to be they're either going for a sequel or they're going to go for a prequel. And the sequel idea that they came up with was it would pick up somewhat after the events of Doctor Sleep, because if you guys remember, it focused on not only the character, I can't even remember names for some reason today. The character from the original film, even though I'm not going to say what happens to him, but there was a new kid that we saw that had the shining ability. They're considering about either focusing on her, or they're actually considering about what was damn, I forgot the guy's name in the original film. Um, I damn it, it's like eating at me now. It's like at the tip of my tongue. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy that the kid somewhat bonds with, who has that kind of connection. If that's the case, they want to make that about him to be kind of a prequel to both movies. But as of right now, from what I've heard, Stephen King is interested in both of these ideas, but they just haven't decided which story idea that they're going to go for. So definitely keep watch for that. I know it's been about 3 years since Doctor Sleep originally came out, but still something you guys should know about. In the late 1970s, one owner attempted to turn a profit through a timeshare program, but that failed, and the hotel went through bankruptcy proceedings in the early 1980s. In 1983, a service tunnel was excavated, connecting the basement level corridor to the staff entrance. It is cut directly through the living granite on which the hotel rests. The next owner renovated the hotel. In 1984, the main building finally got heat, but still struggled. The Stanley landed back in bankruptcy in the early 1990s. So even with the release of The Shining, the book and the movie, although it really, helped out, resurrecting the business for the hotel, that didn't really fully save it entirely from bankruptcy. So you guys can see they were still dealing with a lot of those financial issues throughout the 80s and 90s. Just before we continue, let's see how much time she wanted to read the book again while there. Cherokee, definitely go for it. I think that would be awesome. Its fortunes finally began to change in 1995 when the Grand Heritage Hotel Group bought it through bankruptcy court for $3.1 million. The company immediately undertook extensive renovations with the goal of restoring the hotel to its status as a first-class resort. The Stanley, ironically enough, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure I didn't even know this until recently. The Stanley also served as the fictional Hotel Danbury of Aspen, Colorado in the 1994 film Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber, excuse me. I don't know why I said Dumb and Dumber. From 2013 to 2015, the hotel property began to host an annual horror film festival operated by the Denver Film Society held in early May. The festival featured screenings, panels, student competitions, audience awards, and receptions. Though sadly, the Stanley Film Festival was put on hiatus in 2016 and canceled for 2017. As of right now, I do not know what the status is for the Stanley Film Festival. I'm sure, of course, understandably, it was probably canceled as well in 2020 due to COVID. But as of right now, I don't know what the status is, if they're still even continuing the film festival. But I heard a lot of great things about it, though. I heard it really is a fun festival to go to. So hopefully they do bring that back, because I definitely would like to head out there one of these days. Now, and of course, the hotel, like some locations, has even been inspired and has gotten an association with music. Indie rock band Murder by Death have performed an annual series of winter concerts at the Stanley Hotel since 2014, with the 2020 edition being their seventh such current events. And here's the cool part about this. I know it looks unrelated because what you guys are seeing here, but on many occasions, despite being basically a metal rock band, they actually will take a moment at some point for everybody that's at this event to participate in taking that famous photo that you guys remember at the end of the Stanley, that 1921 photograph where it appears that Jack Nicholson has joined the ranks of the Ghosts and is in that old photograph. And as you can see clearly, that's been a tradition ever since they started coming out. They've always done a replica of that photo, and you can see people are dressed up, in suits and dresses. I can even see there's two people, like one of them's a guy dressed up as the one of the twins. Well, either way, that's really cool though that they're still continuing that tradition. That's awesome. That's really cool. Now, unfortunately, however, the floods of September of that year, I think it was 2000, I think it was 2013, 14, or 15. It was one of the two. Three, excuse me, one of the three. The floods of September of that year washed out several roads to Estes Park and hurt tourism to the area. The Stanley suffered little damage, however, and after the floods, it actually accelerated its renovation and expansion plans to take advantage of post-flood state financing and to boost the local economy. John Cullen, owner of the Grand Heritage Hotel Group, announced plans to build a new wellness center near the hotel to capitalize on the trend of healthy vacationing. In addition, in early 2015, Cullen secured a $46 million loan to help pay for what is planned to be the largest renovation and expansion in the Stanley's history. Buildings across the property received new roofs, air conditioning, carpet, and paints. In 2016 to 17, the hotel also added a new 50-room luxury residence hotel connected to the future wellness center, as well as a film center, an amphitheater, and a large pavilion to host health seminars, corporate retreats, and weddings. That same year, the Stanley built a huge hedge maze on the front lawn based on a similar maze in the film. The hotel also offers a variety of tours and packages focusing on ghosts, haunted spaces, and paranormal phenomena. The hotel stands today as a beautifully restored testament to its glory days when it served as a holiday retreat for wealthy urbanites. A range of tours highlights the history of this magnificent historical structure while a tempting menu of anemones, culinary experiences, and lavish spa retreats provides all the comfort and glamour required by even the most discerning modern visitors. Let's just see how much time. I know we're already past an hour, but because I started a half hour early, I actually have a little bit more time. But I'm actually there might be a good chance I might split this into two parts because this is again one of the other largest slideshows I got here. So let's just see how many slides we got. Give me 1 second here. Just before I do, again, I want to try to give some shout outs quickly for everybody that I didn't reach out to earlier. What's up, Joanne? Good to see you. Valley Spirits Communication. Say hello. Thanks for tuning in, Tammy. I appreciate that. Charles, I'm doing well. Glad you're here. Pickle Tom, what's going on? It's Lori. Okay. What's wealthy mean? Couple reasons for flies. Neither is good. Well, no, it's nothing huge, Charles. It's just we get these flies every once in a while, but fortunately, so far there's only two. See your comments. Sam, if that's you, I have seen a few of your comments. Loads of history within old mountains, easy to hide. Yeah, definitely. Killer history. Yes. And yes, Sam, if I'm correct, yeah, I was talking about The Shining earlier. Tanisha, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Parents just got back from Boulder. They went and I got some pics as well. That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's see anybody else. What's going on, Patricia? Hotel Demon is using energy from its name called out, just saying. Energy of the hotel messing without things. And okay, I think we're down to the last ones for here. They want to let you upstairs just first floor just at that moment. I'm sure things will change. And what's up, Brad? Good to see you. All right, yeah, you know what? I'm thinking about maybe probably just splitting this into two parts because there's actually really a lot more to this that would really take a while. And even though I still have quite the amount of time to, even though I have still quite amount of time to go through with the entire slideshow, I still don't think it's really enough. So we're gonna probably stop here for tonight. However, as I always do, I'm going to share the screen one more time because obviously, since we were talking about The Shining, I think it's important here that I'm going to show you guys the trailers of the original 1980 film, The Shining. So bear with me for just a moment. What's going on, Tom? Classic from the great minds of Stanley Kubrick. I know it didn't really show too much, but fortunately, I do actually have a few of the television ads, which would be a little bit more, kind of show a little bit more details on the movie. These are the actual television commercials that aired back in 1984. The Shining. I have 2 commercials that I was able to find.
The Shining, a masterpiece of modern horror, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. Rated R. Opens Friday, June 13. Check newspapers for local listings.
Okay, and then I got one more that I'll show. This is, again, only about 30 seconds. What's this right here? Oh, this is just a search. Okay. This might be the same thing, but, it might be a little bit different. Looks like it's all the same footage. I mean, doesn't really look any different. Oh, wait, no, there's some differences.
Swept America is here. The Shining, a film by Stanley Kubrick, starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. Now playing in the West End and Sunday all over London. The Shining.
Looks like that was more for the British release of it. All right, then for that case, the final, I'm not going to show exactly all of them. And then finally, I thought it would be important to kind of show the 1997, the trailer for the 1997 miniseries that was shot in certain parts of the actual hotel.
You can't fight City Hall. Just put the crap down the way he wants is what I do. Besides, every hotel's got rats. Just like every hotel's got its scandals.
Any ghosts?
The Overlook is full of edges. Last winter, there was a grotesque tragedy. You've got a CB. You want to make damn sure it's working good, because that's your big out in an emergency.
Oh, there it is.
Everything bad that happened here is still here.
I've had some bad dreams here myself.
Now, don't scare the lady, Pete, okay?
But Jack, maybe it's good to be scared sometimes. A little bit.
They said though the look couldn't hurt us. But he was wrong.
Most folks who shine only shine a little. I can feel it coming off you like heat.
Daddy, Daddy! That's her! That's her!
Very creepy indeed. All right, well, I think in that matter, I think we're gonna stop right here. Let's see. You got good, thanks. You got to go see this place, Roach. Yep. And you and your infinite tabs. Hey, Brad, these tabs I have are specifically for the show. I would show more of them, but at this point, again, I just don't want to go overboard with all this time. I see all them tabs open. Yes, I know, Jess, but again, I was just saying I'm using them for the show this time, so I'm getting rid of them each time. All right. Well, I think I'm going to end right here, guys. It's already past 5:30 over here. And Oh my God, Brad, how is Samara? That's gonna have to wait for another show. I don't have enough time to really explain that whole thing. But you guys can catch me on tomorrow though with Supernatural talk. I can talk more about it then. So, but yeah, I'm gonna end right here, guys. We'll focus on making a part 2 for next week, and you know, I know I had some struggles. I had some issues that went on for today, but you know, I really definitely do appreciate, as always, you know, you guys coming on, listening to some of the stories here that I'm able to tell. I'm actually currently in the process of making a few new slideshows in the future. I will be now. I should mention I am going to eventually be taking a break from doing this because putting these slideshows together, it takes a lot of time it takes a lot of time on my schedule. So, you know, I know I just started on some of these other networks. Worst comes to worst, what I'll probably eventually do is after a few months, I might actually go back for, let's see, I might actually go back to some of the original Jill, part 2 is going to be next Wednesday, same time as today. Let's see, Mr. Trailer. All right. Tell you what, because you guys are asking about this, I'll show one of the. Fortunately, I have the tab. I'll show one of the trailers for Dr. Sleep because I do have it with me. So we'll end it just right here. But again, thank you guys so much as always for making the show great. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing how you know, next couple of shows are going to be. And also, very quickly, I got some really exciting news to tell all of you. And this is the first announcement I make. Now, I'm obviously, you guys know that I do a show of I do this show on Wednesdays. I do Supernatural Talk with Jeremy, Eileen, and Adrian on Thursdays. And I do 13th Dimension with Jeremy on Fridays. Well, I'm going to be eventually doing a 4th show that's extending beyond them, in which I'll be co-hosting once again on Monday nights. So, hang on, let's see. I'll be there for sure next time. So yeah, I'll be starting that next week, I believe, on Monday nights around 4:00 CST. So I'll be doing 4 shows Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Probably won't be long until I get a show on Tuesday. You never know. But anyways, we're to end this. Let me get because again, there are some people who are requesting and wanting me to show Dr. Sleep. So I'll get the trailer set up and then we'll end it. Sweet. This gives me a show almost 7 days a week to watch. Yeah. Thank you, Brad. Okay, here we go. Actually, you know what? Let's go with this one instead because I have 2 of them. This one, they call it the final trailer. I'm not sure why. And I was fortunate enough to see this in theaters. Definitely a great movie. So here we go.
When I was a kid, there was a place. A dark place. They closed it down and let it rot. But the things that lived there, they come back. I don't mean to ride the bus this far north. You're running away from something? I'm running away from myself, I guess.
Hi. You can hear me. You're magic. Like me.
I don't know about magic. I always called it the Shining. The world is a hungry place. A dangerous place.
These people, they hurt people like us.
These little devils, they'll eat what shines. And they noticed that little girl.
Oh, hi there.
Get out of my head! Get out!
I haven't felt power like that in so long.
They're coming. Where are we going?
There's a place. sure you want to do this?
I'm ready.
Yes, you run, dear. And then I will find you, and you will scream for years.
Come and play with us forever and ever.
All right, definitely a film that certainly disappoints me. Let's see what Brad's it. It's it's Obi-Wan. I said you were on the fence about watching this, but it looks good. You have to, yeah, definitely check it out, Brad. It's pretty good. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, I'm getting out of here. Tune in next week for part 2 of the Stanley Hotel, in which we'll be talking about the ghost stories associated with the hotel. And of course, tune in for tomorrow night for Supernatural Talk. I don't think we have a guest for tomorrow night, as far as I'm concerned. For 13th Dimension this upcoming Friday, that's something Jeremy's going to have to answer, because I'm not sure who we have coming up this Friday night. So, anyways, that will be it for tonight. Hopefully, I'll see some of you guys tomorrow night on Supernatural Talk at 7 o'clock CST. And I'm sure our guest will just show up. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure Bradley. I'll just get Brad. I'm always used to saying Bradley all the time, actually. Yes, Joe, definitely a favorite. It's also a favorite of mine as well. But just wait for part 2. And, maybe I had a few other trailers of the Shining of 1997 and Doctor Sleep. So maybe I'll start off with those two for next week, just to add to the, just to add some entertainment to it, as I always do. But anyways, I'll see some of you guys tomorrow night. Of course, I'll see some of you guys also on Friday. And be sure to tune in for next week, too, for my new appearance as a co-host on the Monday night show, which I'm still trying to get used to the name of it. I can't remember what it is. But until then, unless I see some of you guys tomorrow night, there's a few other, I know some of you guys are just going to wait for next week, so I will probably see you guys next week. Thanks, Brad. You take care as well. So anyways, I'll see some of you guys tomorrow night. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week, and you all have a great night. Take care.